Hi, I'm David Farmhouse, and it's a little after 1 o'clock, October 31st, and I'm running for President of the United States. Okay, I'm going to start out like over in foreign countries, we're fighting against ISIS. Now, if ISIS is fighting Christians, and you're a Christian, and they're liable to cut your head off, it makes perfect sense that you spend any amount of money to defend yourself in order to get your head from being cut off. Soldiers, like the commanders of them soldiers overseas, if you have a line in Washington, D.C. that indicates the amount of money may be a foot long in some page in some book in Washington, D.C. that says there's another base over there that may be spending like, $10 million a day dropping bombs on ISIS, the largest air base in the world, that may be spending $10 million a day dropping bombs on ISIS in order that ISIS don't come in and cut their heads off. It makes perfect sense to them that they spend that amount of money in order that they don't lose the war. That makes sense to me. But in times of peace, at the War Department, in times of peace, I don't see why we don't have a Department of Peace right now in America where we spend just that much money in America. If we can spend that much money on one bomb, I don't know who gets paid that much money to build a bomb. Does some nameless company get paid that much money for the bomb, or do people get paid to build the bomb? If a person gets paid to build a bomb, maybe, but some company gets paid that much money for the bomb. If a psychic, like Donald Trump said he was going to build the strongest war or the strongest military, I'd like to pay a soldier $300 an hour. If you're overseas where you're getting shot at, $300 an hour, 24 hours a day, $300 an hour if you're getting shot at 24 hours a day, every day you're overseas. Like, if you're over there for 20 years, you can retire at full pay. That's like you get a card where you retire, like you retire where everything like after you retire, everything you get paid for. Okay, that's like in America, on like a pay scale. Pay scale 1 is $100 an hour with the Department of Peace, where like during a war you spend as much money in peace as you do in war. So pay scale 1 is $100 an hour, 60-40, where if you work at McDonald's, you get paid 60% of $100 an hour. So if a soldier goes into McDonald's, he gets his hamburger for free, because the Department of Peace would pay them the 60%. They'd pay the person working at McDonald's $60 an hour to fix the hamburger, and McDonald's get 40% of $100 an hour per employee for whatever they needed for the hamburger. The Department of Peace would pay McDonald's 40% of $100 an hour to build the hamburger, to fix the hamburger. Department of Peace would pay the employee 60% of $100 an hour for the hamburger, and the soldier that had worked for 20 years in the service could go in there and get his hamburger for free after working for 20 years in the military. Okay, if he got his hand blown off, he'd be disabled, and if no matter how long he worked, he'd be able to go in there and get his hamburger for anywhere. After you get in service, anywhere. That's like, okay, let's say, labor grade 2, that's $200 an hour. I only have like 10 minutes to talk, so I gotta be quick. But military service is $300 an hour. If you come back from military service, that's like a construction worker is $300 an hour. Anywhere a military serviceman comes back, he can get a construction worker job for $300 an hour. Or if they wanted to be like a social worker, that's $200 an hour. Social workers get paid $200 an hour. because they're doing good. If you have a child that's a special needs child, a social worker gets paid $200 an hour to do social work. Anything you can think of that the social worker would get $200 an hour. Teachers, $400 an hour. Carpenter, bush pilot, anything $300 an hour. Anything you can think of. Policeman sitting behind a desk, $400 an hour. A police officer, 2 police officers in a car, $500 an hour. I've said this before, I'm repeating myself, but I wanted to get into the fact that I said that a soldier had to work 40 years, the soldier only has to work 20 years to retire. But if you can spend that much money dropping bombs in times of war, you can spend that much money in times of peace fixing highways in America. We can have a Department of Peace in America in times of peace and spend just as much money in times of peace. In times of war, that money comes from nowhere. If we can have a debt of trillions of dollars, if we already have a debt of trillions of dollars, there's no place to borrow the money from to spend no more money. If we already have a debt of trillions of dollars, there's no place to borrow more money, to spend more money, to drop trillions of dollars in bombs overseas, so you can't borrow more money from anybody to keep on dropping bombs, but it only makes sense to keep on dropping it rather than letting them come over and take over. So if you keep on dropping bombs, which you have to let them to keep from coming over and taking over, because you have to keep on keeping on, it only makes sense to keep on doing it. But as long as you keep on doing that, you might as well do it over here. If you have to keep on doing it over there, you might as well do it over here. But as long as you're doing it over there, you might as well do it over here. But this is just a 7-minute speech. But teachers are like 400, nurses maybe 500, lawyers, if you get in trouble, your lawyer would be paid for. If you want to give to St. Jude, a doctor gets paid $700 an hour, 60-40. But my campaigns are all word of mouth, so if you hear anything you like, tell somebody about it. I said, like, over where the ISIS is forcing them people out of the country, I believe in legal immigration. We could let them come over here. I was saying I have an idea on clean energy. It's under clean energy. You can look it up, clean energy. David Formhals, DAVID-FORMHALS. I think you can pump water uphill by having a round container of air. We let oil get under this round container of air where the air would go up. On the other side, right next to it, you'd have a round container of air where you wouldn't let the oil get under it. And when the air went up, it'd pull the air down. And the air going up, you could get energy out of it. And the air going up, you could pump water uphill. And the distance up in between Phoenix, Arizona and Lake Michigan is less than maybe a couple mile. And you could pump water uphill a couple mile and get water uphill a couple mile and pump water uphill and let it drain downhill in between Lake Michigan and Phoenix, Arizona, and get it all the way out there at about 2,000 miles. It's less than the interstate highway system, and use all that labor that wants to come over here and breathe free and give them a place out in the desert to live where they need water, and let them come over here and live in the desert, and legal immigration, and let them live in the desert and irrigate the desert with Lake Michigan. I think there's enough water out there. Line this canal with plastic, put plastic over it, and have irrigation.